if leaders did that kind of stuff more or anything that is any sign of vulnerability, then people would be in a better place in the world. There's been times in my career and in life where I haven't felt good enough for whatever reason. And I've felt like an imposter, rightly or wrongly. Boy, that's taken time and experience. And again, a lot of therapy to get to that point.
Hi, I'm Hannah Bloking.
Hi, I'm Allison Makulik, and we are 4 Under 3. And today we are bringing you another episode of Imposter Talks. So our guest today is Mr. Dan Swift. He is the CEO of Numentum, which he will tell us all about. But fun fact about Dan, Hannah and I actually both worked with him when we were at Sprinkler. He is a great leader. He started an amazing things since he left Sprinkler. And now here we all are together to talk about it. So, Dan, please give yourself an introduction. Tell us who you are and how you got here today.
Well, thank you so much. So yeah, it feels like a long time since Sprinkler days, but I'm English. I'm 46 years old. I was born in the north of England, and I've been in and around enterprise sales and sales leadership for the last 20 years. And I don't know if you know this about me, but prior to joining Sprinkler, I launched for LinkedIn's social selling business and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So that was my claim to fame. That was my little baby before I had 3 real ones of my own. And here we are today as the CEO of Numentum.
Wow. So what a journey. You have launched products at LinkedIn. You are this enterprise sales guru. You're a CEO. You have 3 kids, which is incredible. So one of the things that Alice and I love to talk to people about who've navigated a lot of obstacles in their career to get to places like where you are is about the term imposter syndrome. Can you talk a little bit about the term imposter syndrome and what that means to you?
Totally. So I actually Googled the definition of it prior to this, just to see what it said. And it says a person who pretends to be someone else in order to deceive others, especially for fraudulent gain. Part of that I agree with, but it's not the to deceive others or especially for fraudulent gain or even pretending to be someone. That's not what it means to me. For me, it's more, am I good enough? When I'm in a situation, do I have the level of expertise to feel as though I have a seat at the table and have the right to have a seat at the table? And that's what it feels to me. There's been times in my career and in life where I haven't felt good enough for whatever reason. And I've felt like an imposter, rightly or wrongly.
So yeah, let's dive in. Thanks so much for giving us the definition. We've talked to people. Some people feel it's a phenomenon.
Mhm.
Some people, it's like an actual syndrome. So it's always interesting to hear your perspective on that. So thank you for sharing. Talk to us about if you've ever felt your own imposter, like if you've ever not felt like you have a seat at the table. Was it coming in as a sales leader? Was it launching a product? Was it launching a company as the CEO? Start talking to us about some scenarios when you felt like that.
My definition was very much of the imposter, him or herself, rather than the syndrome itself. When I joined LinkedIn, I joined having spent 12 years at Complinet and then Thomson Reuters by acquisition. And I was very much in my comfort zone. So when I joined LinkedIn, I was one of 4 directors at the time that was launching a whole new business unit. My 3 peers had all come from the industries, the sales, tech stack industry, and I haven't, but I'd used it. So when I was sat there, we were having these conversations around, we're going to launch this product, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And this is what they all had, that industry expertise. And I did not. I felt very nervous about providing a point of view. Yet my job was to provide a point of view. I was one of 4 directors. Now I'd used all the tech stack. I just never sold it before. And one of the directors at the time, he literally said to me, took it offline and called me up and said, dude, we've hired you because of your expertise and your experience and what you've done prior. So we need you to contribute what's going on. And I shared it with him and he's like, no, we don't have that here. You've got to show up. And I needed that. And I started showing up and started contributing. And I found myself feeling like actually maybe I knew more about the space than perhaps, some of the folks who we were in meetings with. So it was a really nice moment for someone to give me that little heads up that I needed to step up.
That's such an interesting story and kind of almost advice on what people can do to kind of get past that moment where you feel like you have nothing to contribute. So Allison and I talked to a lot of executives And the most resounding theme to me is just like what you said. You're at a seat at the table with other executives and you're like, what do I have to contribute to this conversation for whatever reason? So for you, it sounds like it was just somebody told you, hey, you need to start talking.
That was the first time in my career when I've ever had it, but I needed that person to step in that moment. However, I still have it to this day in different moments, right? In different scenarios. But I've learned a tactic through 20 years of therapy, by the way, for other reasons, that where's the evidence, right? Where's the evidence to say that you don't have the right to be sat here? And actually the evidence points to the fact, not only do you have the right to be sat here, but actually you've possibly got more right to be here than other folks at the table. So I've learned that where's the evidence? It's just helped me enormously throughout my career.
I was actually thinking we had a woman named Lisa Jaster on, and she is a veteran. And for her, where's the evidence? It's actually a physical green folder that she brings all over the world. And it's almost like her portfolio of herself to remind herself, I'm confident, I can be here. And it kind of changed the way I thought about it too. Like in terms of, okay, I think I need like a physical. So I have a little note right here on my computer that I can call back to, especially in big meetings, things like that. When you tell yourself, where's the evidence? Is it a physical? Is it in your mind? Are there certain things that you call back to get you over that?
Yeah, now it's in my mind. When I first started doing this, I'd literally go look at my LinkedIn profile, right, to remind myself of what I'd done and what I continue to do today. But now I'm able to flip a switch, like literally in my brain, before I go and jump up on stage in front of hundreds of people and do a keynote. And I hope anyone doing that would get nervous, because if you don't care enough. There's a certain amount of level. I can flip a switch in my brain now and look around the room and go, these folks are actually going to benefit from what I'm about to share, which puts me in a totally different headspace. Boy, that's taken time and experience. And again, a lot of therapy to get to that point.
Can you give one go-to piece of advice for somebody that's sitting there listening to this conversation? They're like, I don't know how to flip the switch. What can I do today? What's your one piece of advice for them?
I think it's going back to what I just said about the evidence, right? Whatever you need to remind yourself, or however you need to remind yourself, whether it is those physical assets or emails that you've kept from people who have said great job, or certificates from industry certifications that you've got, whatever it is, you need to find a way to remind yourself in the moment that you absolutely do have the right. And I read somewhere, and it might have been what you sent me, that 70% of people have experienced or continue to experience some sort of imposter syndrome. So 10 people sat around the room, 7 people are feeling the same, if not worse than you in that moment. And we're all human beings. So it's okay. Just remind yourself that where's the evidence, and then just try and step past it and enjoy. Life's too short not to.
That's awesome. Hannah always does this thing when we put on imposter syndrome workshops where we'll share that stat, and on the fly, she'll go, okay, there's 200 people on this call. So X amount of you have experienced imposter syndrome or are experiencing it right now.
Yeah.
And then all the emoji reactions just light up because everyone's like, you gave me permission to feel like this. Thank you.
And I wish more people would admit it or proactively share it, particularly leaders, because if leaders did that kind of stuff more on anything that is any sign of vulnerability, then people would be in a better place in the world. So anyone listening to this, if you're in that kind of position of responsibility, let's step up and let's do that.
Yeah, 100%. Dan, it's been so nice to meet you. I know we didn't cross paths at Sprinkler directly, but I know we mentioned this earlier when we were chatting. It's like a celebrity has entered the chat room. So great.
Thank you very much.
So great to finally get a chance to meet you live.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Talks.
Subscribe, like, and review our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And please follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube at 4under3.
And we want to hear your imposter story. If you're interested in being a guest, please email us at info@4under3.io. Thanks so much.